Sami Zayn is undoubtedly a key figure in WWE, not just on Monday Night Raw but across the entire company. His presence has been felt in major storylines, especially his involvement with the Bloodline on SmackDown. He's been used effectively in that feud, where he initially aligned with Roman Reigns and the Usos before ultimately betraying them, which led to one of the most compelling storylines in recent WWE history. His involvement in Survivor Series during War Games was a prime example of his critical role in these high-profile narratives. However, when it comes to Monday Night Raw, Zayn's booking seems to take on a different role. Although he's involved in major storylines like his ongoing feud with Drew McIntyre, his position on the show often feels more like that of a utility player rather than a central figure. McIntyre, a former WWE champion and a much bigger star than Zayn in WWE's eyes, is in the midst of a feud with Zayn that will likely carry over into the new year. This is where things get interesting. On paper, this feud between Zayn and McIntyre looks like it should be an equal pairing of top-tier talents. McIntyre's pedigree is undeniable. He has been a multiple-time world champion, and his recent feud with CM Punk only highlights his prominence in the company. For someone like Zayn, who is still regarded as an upper-card talent, this presents an opportunity for him to be showcased in a meaningful way. However, the reality is that this feud serves as a means for McIntyre to rebound after his recent setbacks. Zayn, despite his immense popularity and in-ring ability, is once again being used as the guy to get McIntyre back on track. It's a tough spot for Zayn fans. On one hand, it's clear that WWE sees him as someone who can get the job done, especially in high-profile matches with other top-tier talent like McIntyre. Zayn's ability to sell, his charisma, and his connection with the audience make him the perfect candidate to elevate someone like McIntyre. But, on the other hand, it's difficult for fans to watch as Zayn continually finds himself in a supporting role, rather than being given the chance to stand at the top of the card as a champion or main event star. This brings us to the larger question of how WWE truly views Sami Zayn. If you take a step back and look at his career in WWE, it becomes clear that he has often been used as a stepping stone for others to reach the next level. His most notable example of this came when he lost the Intercontinental Championship to Gunther at WrestleMania. While Zayn was a highly credible champion in his own right, WWE clearly used his position to help elevate Gunther, who is now one of the most dominant champions in the company. Zayn's role in this situation was not to hold onto the title for a long reign but to put over a future star like Gunther. Similarly, you could look at his feud with Braun Strowman. Zayn was used as a launching pad for Strowman's rise to prominence, even though Zayn was one of the most over acts in the company at the time. This isn't a knock on Zayn's ability or popularity, but rather a reflection of WWE's tendency to book him as someone who puts over others in order to elevate them in the eyes of the audience. His utility is valuable, but it comes at the expense of his own progression as a top-tier champion. This trend isn't limited to his recent interactions with McIntyre or Strowman. If you go back to Zayn's early days in WWE, you'll notice a similar pattern. One of the most notable examples is how WWE used him to establish Kevin Owens as a top heel. When Owens debuted in WWE, he famously attacked Zayn, turning on him after a successful NXT Championship match. This established Owens as a vicious, cold-hearted heel, willing to turn on his best friend to achieve success. Zayn was the perfect foil for Owens in this regard. He was beloved by the audience, a solid worker in the ring, and someone who could help get Owens over as an effective villain. In a sense, this is the role that Zayn has often found himself in throughout his WWE career, a utility player. He's not just a mid-carder. He's an essential part of the puzzle that helps elevate other talents. And while that's a testament to his ability as a performer, it also leaves a gap between where Zayn is positioned and where fans would like to see him at the top of the card, as a world champion. Now, it's important to note that while Zayn may not be positioned as a world champion or a consistent main event player, he is far from irrelevant. Zayn has become one of WWE's most popular stars, consistently delivering incredible performances both in the ring and on the microphone. His ability to connect with the audience is unparalleled, and his work in the Bloodline storyline has elevated him to a level of recognition and fan adoration that most wrestlers could only dream of. Zayn is one of the best talkers and in-ring workers in WWE, and his performances in major storylines are always top-notch. But despite all this, WWE still seems hesitant to pull the trigger on making him a main event talent on a consistent basis. This leads to the larger question of why WWE doesn't seem to view Zayn as a true main eventer, despite his obvious popularity and skills. The answer to this question likely lies in the company's idea of what a world champion should look like. Whether under Vince McMahon's leadership or Triple H's current booking, WWE seems to favor a certain mold for their top stars. Guys like Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes, Gunther, and John Cena fit this mold. They are larger-than-life personalities with a certain physical presence and charisma that WWE believes is necessary for the top spots. While Zayn has charisma and connection with the fans in spades, he doesn't quite fit the physical archetype that WWE typically associates with its main eventers. This is not to say that Zayn lacks the qualities needed to be a top champion. He has all the tools. His promo skills, his in-ring ability, and his character work are exceptional. But there's a certain perception in WWE that Zayn isn't the kind of guy who will carry the company as its flagship champion. Even when Zayn was in the main event picture last year at the Elimination Chamber, where he faced Roman Reigns for the WWE Universal Championship, it was clear that WWE had no real intention of putting the title on him. Despite the massive fan support and the incredible build-up to that match, Zayn was never positioned as someone who could realistically dethrone Reigns. This brings us back to the idea of Zayn as a transitional champion, similar to Kofi Kingston's run in 2019. While Kofi's reign as WWE champion was historic and much deserved, it was also clear that WWE didn't view him as a long-term, top-tier main event talent. His run was more of a reward for his years of hard work and dedication to the company, but it wasn't a sign that WWE had shifted its view of him as the centerpiece of the company. Similarly, if Zayn were to ever win the WWE Championship, it would likely be in a similar fashion, more of a token acknowledgement of his popularity and contributions rather than a long-term investment in him as the face of the company. There's always a chance that the fans will rally behind Zayn in such a way that forces WWE's hand. Just like Daniel Bryan's Yes movement and Kofi Kingston's Kofi Mania, there could be a groundswell of support that leads to Zayn receiving a championship opportunity. However, unless something shifts in the company's overall perspective on Zayn, it's likely that he will continue to be used as a utility player, a launching pad for others, rather than a long-term main event star.